Hey, what's up everybody? Chris here, and as we head into the weekend, I mentioned in my previous video that I wanted to do a quick Blu-ray review roundup, and that's what we're going to do now. So we're just going to take a few minutes to look at a couple of Blu-ray discs that I've picked up recently that I think are totally worth investing in. And if I had purchased something that I didn't think was worthwhile, I would also note that too. But, you know, a lot of times I'm walking through Target or I'm walking through Best Buy, and I kind of keep an eye out for videos that I've wanted to pick up, or DVD, Blu-rays, 4K videos that I've wanted to pick up that at initial viewing weren't quite there in terms of the price yet. You know, I'm not oftentimes willing to pay $25 for a new 4K disc, even though sometimes I'll do that. If it's just something I'm really interested in, like a new Star Wars release or whatever the case may be. But one movie I had kept my eye on for a while that I wanted to see and that I thought would be worth getting as opposed to renting, more than likely based on the critical reception it received and all of that, is actually First Man, starring Ryan Gosling. And if you're not familiar with it, it's a biopic about Neil Armstrong. But it's not the kind of movie that a lot of people seem to think that it's going to be. It's not an Apollo 13 clone in any way, shape, or form. If you can think of a movie like Apollo 13, but imagine it having, you know, and this is kind of a loaded term to use, but kind of an art house sensibility. It's a little more ponderous, to use that word, in nature. That's essentially what First Man is. It's about getting to the moon, but it's not really about getting to the moon. It's about Armstrong working through some really, truly tragic events in his life and dealing with that, and working through some real world circumstances with his marriage and some things that have been tough, you know, along with that. So it is a really well made movie, and I think from that perspective, getting to the moon obviously is a symbol for coming to grips with some things that have happened in his life, and one thing very specifically, the death at a very young age of his daughter. But the other thing that the movie does really well, and I can see now why a lot of people recommended seeing the movie in IMAX when it was first released. I didn't have a chance to do that. I wish I had, but it puts you in the cockpit of a rocket taking off and experiencing that journey really, really well. And there are a couple of different scenes in the movie where you get that experience, and it works. You know, I could imagine being in an IMAX theater and having, you know, all of that sort of immersion that would come along with that, and I think it works really well. And I think what works especially well too is when they finally do get to the moon, the movie doesn't spend quite as much time with that as you might think, but it does something that a lot of movies don't do, and I really appreciate. When they finally do land on the moon and they open the door after pressurizing or depressurizing everything, it goes to total silence, because in space there is no air pressure, there is no air. It's a vacuum. You wouldn't hear anything. And they do a really good job of recreating that sterile, barren environment and putting you right in the middle of it. So I think it works really well in that regard. Visually, it's got a nice aesthetic. It's kind of grainy, but intentionally grainy. It's meant to look like it was something that took place in the 60s, which these events did. And even the text, when you go from year to year or location to location, has kind of that 60s aesthetic to it. So it's certainly worth checking out. I will say it's a long movie. It's a little bit different than what I think a lot of people expect, but I really thought it was good. A very well-made, good movie. So for $12.99, which is what I paid for it, definitely worth picking up on Blu-ray. The other movie that I picked up is The Fifth Element. And what can be said about The Fifth Element? What drew me to this purchase, to be perfectly honest with you, was the box art. I think that this is one of the most gorgeous looking Steelbook designs that I have seen, and even the back of it, when it carries over to the back, that same sort of artwork, it just looks great. I'm not really going to talk about the movie, because if you're watching this, you've probably seen The Fifth Element. If you haven't seen The Fifth Element, stop watching this and go buy it. For $10, which is what I paid for this at Best Buy, it's 100% worth that investment, I would say. Visually, it looks good. It's a little bit grainy, but it's a very clean looking movie. It feels like it's got some weight to it, if you can understand what I'm trying to convey when I say that when you're watching the movie, especially on a TV that has really crisp visuals and can produce that image really well for you. Again, I 100% think this is worth it. And it's a great movie. I remember going to see this movie in theaters in 1997. I was in high school. My dad took me and a friend to see it. My dad did not like the movie at all. He couldn't really understand the outlandishness of it or what was going on with it. I just thought it was funny at the time, but the more I've watched it over the years, the more I've come to appreciate it, especially Chris Tucker's performance in it, which is hilarious. So yeah, I love it. I think both of these purchases for $10 for The Fifth Element and for $13, $12 for First Man are 100% worth it. So that's just a quick Blu-ray review roundup, some things I picked up recently. I every week kind of make the rounds and see if there are any good deals on movies out there, and as I come across things, I'll be sure to share them with you. As we move into Monday next week, look for some more content. I've got a couple of things that I'm gonna try and focus on for my next few videos. So if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you like the channel, be sure to click the subscribe button, and have a great weekend. Thanks for watching.